I thought it'd be cool and record the new segment over the weekend, so that way I wasn't like cramming for Monday morning edit, but that didn't happen. Anyway, before we get into the story that I have curated so carefully for you today, I have another carefully curated segment where I shout out the members of the channel this week. So all of their lovely names are right here. They support me, they support the channel. Really appreciate it. You join the channel, you get access to exclusive members only videos, early access to other videos, this lovely shout out. Thank you again to the members. If you want to join, I definitely appreciate that. If you don't want to, just subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff. We're starting this video off with the classic YouTuber. I really didn't want to record this, but that's not because this topic is like too hot to touch. If you've noticed, I've been using different means in which to record and not the typical mic that I have on the camera, and that's because the audio cable is broken in a way that it starts like, it's like picking up radio frequencies. I've never heard of this happening before, but like every now and again there'll be like the like low hum of like classic rock. It's always classic rock and it haunts my dreams. Anyway, I thought I was in the clear. I recorded some stuff this weekend and then all turned out fine, except for the news video. Because anyway, so then I started recording it again thinking, well, I don't know, no reason why it should happen again. Of course it does. So here we are again, recording pretty late in the day here. Original topic for today's story discussion was going to be a very scattered video going over 3D photography. For the sake of brevity, it's going to be about the same, but like a little bit more scattered and a little bit less helpful. So you're welcome. I was mining for memes on Instagram, and I came across this like video talking about this guy whose name is, I got it written down here. I even took notes too. Like that's how serious I was. Roger Lannes de Montebello. Lannes is a French guy, so it's probably completely different sounding than what I'm doing, but that's the dude's name. And his pursuit to create a 3D camera system. There's so little information out there about this dude. Basically, the only source I could find information from, not even Wikipedia. Like there's no, like so far as I could tell, unless I'm like really messing up the spelling of the name, there's no Wikipedia. It's just this one site called Gallery 98, and I'll put the link in the description below. A little bit of grain of salt with everything I'm saying because it's only from one source, and typically it would be kind of nice to have like a few sources to kind of cross-reference things and like make sure that getting some variation of the truth. If I can play in the cards I'm dealt with here in talking about this very niche topic that nobody cares about. This dude lived from 1908 to 1986. And then in the other video, I made some like very far-reaching connection to a book that I read a few years ago called The Dehumanization of Art by Jose Ortega y Gasset or something like that. It's a Spanish artist, philosophizer, whatever the fuck. But he lived in kind of that same time period, like in the 1900s or whatever, from the beginning to roughly the 80s or to the end. And I was like, that's interesting because Spain in that time period went through the monarchy, civil war, communism, dictatorship, fascist dictatorship, some other form of like monarchy, and then democratic republic. I think they like spanned all of the different political systems, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And I found a way to like wedge that in a little bit more cleanly than I'm doing in this version, but it's late and you don't care and I don't care. So who do we care about? But then that also ties into another Spanish famous Spanish person. Jesus, I need to write scripts one of these days instead of the sticky notes. Another famous Spanish artist person, Salvador Dali. He and Roger Lannes de Montebello or whatever, they worked together a few times. They both had similar fascinations with optical illusions and stuff like that, which if you've seen any of Salvador Dali's stuff, it's fantastic. Basically, It's Mustache Man trying to recreate dreams, and I think that's cool. It was a museum in Clearwater, which is where the Scientologists are, but it's worth it. It's a really great museum. I think they have like his car there or something too. It's a really nice car, but huge pieces of artwork. And it's one of those things where like you can stand really far back and see all this stuff, and then you get closer and there's all these like more minute details. And depending on how you look at things, there's all sorts of different stuff going on. It's really fascinating stuff. I think he was greatly influenced by some of the stereoscopic imagery that's out there. I kind of clumsily described in the earlier iterations of this video, but I think it's going to be a much more in-depth topic, so I'm just going to touch on it briefly. Stereoscopic imagery is basically taking two pictures at slightly different focal alignments and then pairing them up in a way that kind of creates some version of three-dimensional perspective. From what I can understand, it is not 3D in that it does not change the information as the user moves head or eyes. So you're not really getting anything different versus what, I'm just going to call him Roger, what he wanted to do was create a camera system in which, as he put it, you could be looking at earring on the model on one side of their head. As you slowly walk around, it recedes and then shows on the other side, and that's kind of cool. Now he references the De Beers company, which is kind of a colloquial, well-known diamond manufacturer with a few of the blood diamond allegations and stuff. So there's just questionable things there, but I think the more important part is that it's a very well-known brand, and I think that something like this 3D photography idea would ultimately serve great purpose for branding, for marketing, advertisement, all that good stuff. So I like that because it's kind of like he had this idea and was like, this is a way that it can also be monetized, versus my idea is I'm either creating a problem that no one has and then solving it, or solving a problem that no one has. Great, right? He passed away in 1986, but before that, 2 years prior, he produced some kind of camera, and this is called the Crystal Chrome 3D. In 1984, it is a plane, basically, with about 2,644 miniature single lenses on it. And each of these lenses was kind of angled in different ways, exposed on a flat plane. There's a few caveats. Outside of the obvious constraints with a system that's so specialized, the subject had to be 3/4 of an inch away. That's this. Okay, that's an inch, so 3/4 is here. Okay, they had to be this close to the camera. They had to be this close. Can't even get my whole honker in there. My nose is bigger than 3/4. My nose is huge. Jesus. Oh my God, that was a big mistake. Oh. Just new insecurity unlocked. Big nose alert. Jesus. Stupid. You're on the internet. The whole system was designed. There was a few photos that were taken. A couple notable ones are on the Gallery 98 site. I, again, linked below. You can see in one of the images as well, he chose to take a picture of a guy with the Camel cigarettes, kind of leading more into my thoughts of marketing, advertising stuff. There's a few problems, though. One, he died, and that's unfortunate, but he died, and I think the project probably lost a lot of steam past that point. Two, this is all pre-digital stuff. I think it's all pre-digital. Now we all have digital stuff. It is a very cool insight into the past and how people were trying to solve problems with what they had. I think that's compelling. But again, I do think it might be somewhat of a case of very specialized idea. And while there was a monetary potential there, or a financial potential there, I don't know. I don't know if it would have taken off or not, because a few years after that, 5 years actually, the Nishika N8000 came out. And it's a terrible camera, but it does have 4 lenses. And those 4 lenses shoot in sequence, as opposed to the Crystal Chrome 3D camera, which shoots all at once. The sequence, I don't know what the timing is on it, but basically you can stack those up to either create somewhat of illusion of a moving image, or something kind of more similar to like a GIF sort of situation. Now, those were very popular a few years ago. Grainy Days did a video on them, and the price mysteriously just skyrocketed. The quality, though, stayed the same. They are terrible cameras, absolutely garbage, just dog water cameras. There are better options out there, but really the Nishika N800, N8000, whatever, is just a waste of time. But it is an interesting little part of history. A few years after that, the Fuji Rensha came out. And then 4 years after the Rensha, they released the Fuji Rensha Cardio BYU-N8. Great name, guys. But those two cameras were also sequence cameras. The Rensha had, I believe, 8 lenses, and the Rensha Cardio BYU-N8 had 16. The Fuji Rensha Cardio, the BYU N8, whatever, shot on 2 film frames. The Rensha only shot on the 1, but it was more designed for things like a golf swing or a baseball bat swing, or if you're a runner and you have like a start. So it'd shoot in sequence and you can break down individualized movements. And that's a really good concept, like that's really cool. Unfortunately, again, video camera on my phone, those have been replaced as of yet. Granted, this was in 1995, but something also happened a little bit after that would, again, render these technologies a little bit obsolete. The F5 came out, and other cameras as well, but the F5, I think, is one of the most notable examples because I believe in the advertising material for it, they actually play a movie that was shot exclusively on an F5. And it's just a sequence of images, but the fact that it can shoot at such a high frame rate for such a consistent period of time, it was able to create the illusion of a moving image at 24 frames per second is very compelling, and again, kind of renders this all obsolete. It wouldn't have done that for the 3D system because that's kind of all at once and different variations, but something similar was done when The Matrix came out. It's famously known as bullet time. They had a sequence of cameras set up at different angles, and so the actor would go through the movement, and each image would play off each other in sequence. So again, not really the same thing as 3D, but it does, again, create that kind of illusion of movement and depth because it's coming from different angles and also not 3/4 of an inch away. Kind of reminds me, too, of early video game design. I remember Halo Combat Evolved. My dad used to play that, and I'd be like watching him and like reading through the little manual and stuff, and I just got like obsessed with the game. I got the ODST poster right up there. It's one of my favorite games. But anyway, I have like the Halo encyclopedia somewhere, and in that it talks about like the polygon mapping or whatever for the early iterations of the art design on characters, vehicles, all sorts of stuff. Basically have the flat plane of each panel for the person or the character's face, and then they just kind of wrap that around the shape that it needs to be. And that was just how they developed and designed characters back then. It looks haunting, but it creates the illusion of 3D. And in my mind, that was a much more clearer cut example. Mainly just wanted to talk about it because the look of like the Halo Combat Evolved Marines lifeless faces being filleted out was very haunting to me as a child, but that's okay. To tie this back into another example of something that kind of could be perception warping 3D stuff, and that is Kendrick Lamar's music video for Humble. There is a sequence that sticks with me to this day because it is fantastic, but he has like 3 or 4 cameras set up and they're shooting at just slightly different angles and cutting between all of them rapidly, and it creates this destabilized illusion while he's rapping, and I think it looks really cool, and it adds to the stylized version of this video. The original inventor of like stereoscopic imagery or whatever was a dude named Sir Charles Wheatstone. He's British, if you could believe it or not. He developed the whole thing in 1838. That could maybe be the foundation of all of this. Again, stereoscopic imagery is like a whole thing that I might get into at a later time, but I really just wanted to make this video to talk about the 3D thing and share that information because I thought it was a really cool camera at the very least. It's a cool design, it's a cool idea, rendered almost completely useless because we have these. It's incredibly specialized and it's interesting and maybe worth sharing, but Anywho, that's pretty much it. I'm sorry this is going out so late, but it's been a series of errors this evening and today in general. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this to be remotely enjoyable. Did find it enjoyable? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and yeah. Catch you on the next one.